Hello, everyone. My name is Sheyi Fabi. I'm the anchor of Center for Human Settlements and Sustainable Development, an NGO based in Nigeria. We have our broadcast, which is going to be periodic broadcast, and what we are looking at for the next segment of our broadcast is politics and effects of United Nations intervention in African economy. We are going to look at it in three segments. We are going to look at the politics of intervention. Then we are going to look at the effects of these United Nations activities in Africa. And we are going to specifically look at Nigerian experience. I am speaking on these topics based on my real hand-on experience or real life experience. I've been a staff of United Nations population activity UNFPA. I've also been a staff of Food and Agriculture Organization of United Nations. I've also been a staff of UN Habitat and also been a staff of a World Bank, a staff of a World Bank project in Nigeria and Ethiopia. So this gives me first-hand experience in this agency, in the operations and the activities and the interventions of these agencies in Africa. Nigerian experience and Ethiopia experience. I've also carried out some studies to really look at the effects, how important are these projects or this intervention in Nigerian environment. So now the let's look at the history of the United Nations. Most of the United Nations actually started before most of the African countries got their independence. United Nations was officially established on October 24, 1945, just after the World War II, with the primary aim of preventing future conflicts and fostering international cooperation. It succeeded the League of Nations, which was initially formed prior to 1945, based on the fact that it has failed to prevent global conflicts in the 1930s and the 1940s. The founding members of United Nations were 51, and they signed the UN Charter at the San Francisco Conference in 1945. The main objectives of the formation of the United Nations was to maintain international peace and security, to promote human rights, foster social and economic development, provide humanitarian aid, and uphold international law. The structure of the United Nations has six main organs. General Assembly, all member states have equal representation. Security Council maintain peace and security. They have 5 permanent members and they have 10 rotating members. They also have Economic and Social Council. They have International Court of Justice, ICC, and also they have UN Secretariat, and they have Trustees Council, which currently they are not active. Now, let us look at the historical context of United Nations intervention or incursion into African nations. Most of the African countries were not part of the 51 countries that signed the treaty, the Charter of United Nations, because many of them were still under colonial rules. The charter was signed on their behalf by France, United Kingdom, Germany and Belgium and other countries like that. So, but many African states gained independence in the mid 20th century, the 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, and immediately they got independence, most of these countries uh, uh, collapsed into instability, post-colonial instability. They have ethnic conflicts. They will have weak institutions due to the teething problem that is associated with taking over of institutions that was elite institution by local semi-illiterate, mid-level illiterate staff or citizens. So they have weak institutions, and most of those countries are not cohesive. They are not together. Most of them are just amalgamated or grouped together without their different chiefdoms, kingdoms were brought together for colonial convenience, for ruling, for colonial convenience, administration convenience. And because of that, many of those countries immediately after the independence resulted into civil war. They went into civil wars and they have disputes, they have border disputes and things like that, which has become the major reason why United Nations have intervened in some of these countries. They also have Cold War influences. During the Cold War, intervention were often shaped by superpower rivalry. When especially when the colonial powers are having issues, it also resulted into some of the Cold War. Between the Cold War of the superpowers, resulted into the instability in some of these uh, colonial states or vassal states to those countries. So this uh, really gave the United Nations, the opportunity to intervene in some of these African countries. Due to those crises that resulted from post-independence experience on some of those young nations, United Nations have need to intervene in humanitarian crisis in order to prevent genocide, war crimes, and massive human rights violations. They also have reason to intervene in some of these countries when they have regional instability. Instability in one state may split into other countries, and which can give some regional or international concern. They also have global security concerns because, especially when we have the threat of terrorism, organized crime, and spread of conflict, which the uh, United Nations may be interested in preventing. Uh, the politics of these interventions is hinged on some of these facts. Number one, the 5 permanent members of the Security Council, especially France, US, and China, usually have some strong interest in African resources. And this also dictate and determine their interest in intervening, coming in the so-called uh, presentation, so for a goal of preventing or intervening to prevent breakdown of law and order, to prevent civil war, to prevent genocide, but in the actual fact, they are intervening based on their own interest, national interest. We also have African Union that started and has become more assertive in intervening in some African countries. And we also have some regional blocs in Africa. We have ECOWAS, during the time of a military regime in Nigeria. They have ECOMOG, which was a military arm of the ECOWAS states, and it intervened in Liberia and Sierra Leone. We also have host nation sovereignty. Many African leaders are weary of intervention, such as infringement of sovereignty, sometimes leading to tension with the UN. So we also discover that sometimes some of the countries, the neighboring country, may want to help to stabilize or to arrest the instability of a nearby country, but because of the sovereignty of each country, they may be weary to intervene, and this one may affect the possibility of intervention. Now give the room for UN to intervene. So, but we have been having some issues. There are so many issues, negative issues or criticism and controversies of these interventions. Most of these interventions, the notable one is that the fact that those interventions are not actually in the interest of the African countries. Most of them is either the global power, superpowers are trying to assert their authority or control over the vassal state, the so-called vassal state, because they believe that once they can provide some assistance to stabilize the countries, they should be able to exercise some control and infuse into them governance strategies, as if they want to erode the culture and the tradition of the state that has been regarded as a vassal state, to the fact that they must submit to their interventions and their opinion. And also, so the critics argue some intervention reflect the interest of global powers more than the African people. Effectiveness is success is mixed because most of them, in fact, it created more conflict. We can see the example of that in France intervention in the Saharan states of Africa, like Burkina Faso, Mali, and even Senegal. The thing escalated the conflict of the counter-insurgency to the fact that they have to be ordered out. France had to be ordered out of Burkina Faso, from Mali, and also from Niger Republic. Accountability issues. Some missions stabilize conflict zone, others struggle due to poor mandates, lack of resources, or political constraint. In fact, some of them may have they will present or there have been arguments that some of those conflicts are fueled by the foreign powers because some of those resources that the insurgents and rebels are using to finance they are using to finance their insurgency to confront the government of the day was provided from the countries, from their colonial masters, from the country that colonized them, in order to destabilize them. They also have accountability issues. Peacekeepers have been accused of abuse, exploitation, and which have been damaging to United Nations credibility. Now, in some of these interventions, we have United Nations going beyond intervention, military intervention. Then in the next segment, we are going to look at the negative effects of UN aids. I say I'm speaking as someone who has experience, who have real life experience on this intervention project. I've been on missions, I've been on a program, I've been on several intervention programs, either as aids or as a loan or as a special grant given to the country to implement certain program, projects, and activities. And I'm going to look at some of the negative effects of these um, aids on, on African countries. I'll use Ethiopia and Nigeria as specific examples. And I will present case studies on some of the things that I observed and I experienced. Thank you. Looking forward to seeing you in my next episode.